So this show, of course, is about mental health and suicide prevention. Soul Survivors of Chicago is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the causes of mental health and exploring those, talking about it in the community, as well as the importance of suicide prevention and silencing the stigma that comes with this. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to talk about how music and culture intertwines with mental health and how we can all be related to that. So, Lidlaw, I have questions for you. The audience would love to know your response, but let's start with your personal journey. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about and share with us your personal journey with hip-hop and mental health and well-being and how it's influenced your music and pretty much your artistry?
Well, my journey with hip-hop started real young. As you know, from being a room away, I would sneak listen to the music all night. You know, back then we only had like 2 hours of hip hop a week, the Rap Down on GCI.
Yeah.
And I really got intrigued by it. It just felt like something that I never heard before, something that was exciting, something that sounded like the people that I was around, something that that I could relate to. But even deeper than that, the roots of the music that it came from was stuff that Mama would play when we would have to clean up the house. You know, it would be stuff that I hear at family reunions. So I always felt this kinship that I didn't know, you know, what to do with it. It was just like a ball of energy every time I was around it, and every time that that I would start to consume it. Fast forward into like high school, you know, you're hanging out with your friends and new albums are coming out, and you want to have some talking points about them. So not only did we like to like talk about them, but we would talk about, you know, the music itself and where the music came from, and, you know, did you hear him say this, or did you miss this, or, you know, it was a lot of replay value for it. So it was just something that I loved with without even having to think about it. It was something that drew me like a moth to the flame. And it was in high school where we started to kind of build a community of people that were so influenced by it. You know, some of us went into graffiti, some of us went into breakdancing, some of us went into producing, and some went into MCing. And fortunately, I had enough friends that I went into all of it. So it was like it wasn't even like something that we were trying to do to get famous, or we were trying to do to get money. It was something that we were doing because we just loved it that much. And through that, you know, you're around something for long enough. If you do something long enough, you become kind of a master of it. So it was when I got to college where, you know, the ciphers and the freestyles and all the stuff that we were doing in high school, I really never knew that was just kind of training my brain to be able to actually focus up and do that. So when I actually was able to kind of really focus up, and it was people from all these different places in school, I was getting a different reception from it. And people were like, "Man, you like really, really good." And I'm like, "Really? Am I?" So, and I think that's with everything. You know, you're always looking for that validation from people. And being able to be validated from people who didn't know me, you know, not my homies, you know, not people who see me at this party or see me battle this guy, people who are, you know, totally new to me, giving me that validation. It was me and my cousin, Kurt, who decided, like, you know, maybe we should put some money behind this. You know, we had a couple of dollars after leaving college. So we actually started a record label. We started Ill Regards Records in his basement with, you know, money that we had off of taking pictures. And the crazy thing was we started procuring all this equipment and stuff and didn't know how to work anything. So it was almost like going back to square one. But when you love something and you know it's for you, you know, you'll put everything into it. So every free dollar that I had, every time I got off work, everything went into kind of building this dream that we had. And we were then hoping that, you know, it would be at least profitable, so we at least break even. But it's funny what you do in the times where there's no clear vision set, when you don't have anything promised to you. You know, you give more than 110%, you know, so we were really, really hitting it from all angles, and, you know, we started to build a name for ourselves. Then I was part of a group called the Drunk Unks, and that's when things just kind of just took off. And we went around the country for, kid you not, 5 years.
Wow.
We toured we've opened up for Little John and the East Side Boys. We opened up for Case. We opened up for John Legend. We opened up for
Wow.
So many people I can't even Twista. You know, we went to school with Mickey. You know, went to school with Shauna. So we had a network that we were building that we didn't even know was around us, and we had like a lot of people kind of looking out for us and opened up for Method Man in Connecticut. We did a showcase with the Dipset in New York, and it was just like everything was just coming in, and, you know, it was just really overwhelming. And we didn't even have an album put out. We had all these different majors that were coming in and had interest for us, and it just never really was what we were looking for. And this was around the time where things went from the analog to the digital world, so people had started promoting their music online, which was something that was new to us. But we had already started dumping all our money into the analog side and buying CDs and all this stuff. So we were kind of a victim of the times, where it just turned one day and everybody was just streaming, and we like, what is this streaming? Like, how do you can't get paid off of that. Like, we're not doing that. Like, we getting these CDs out. So, you know, the mistakes you make you better, and I wish we would have taken full advantage of kind of the early MySpace days and the early kind of stream days and chat room days, because that's where music was going. And unbeknownst to us, you know, the old way was leaving out.
So that's an interesting thing that you said, where the music is going, because it is just like with our society. There's always a changing day. One day you'll be this way, another day you'll be that way, and changing with the times. I would imagine somebody in the artistry of music has to adapt. At the same time, there is these coping things that we can do, or many of us have to do, in order to stay with the times when our music is or our artistry or whatever we do that is creative is challenged by the norm of what the new normal is. How do you, or what would you say is your ways to kind of cope with it and still have, your individual self? Like, what would you say that's
Back then, my coping mechanism was drugs and alcohol. Today, it's prayer and therapy. When you hit a wall and you feel like, you've done all of this and you still haven't gotten to the place where you feel you needed to be, it's really frustrating. And, just having the bottom drop out on you, it feels like, the world is coming down on you. And, for someone who didn't know how to pray, how to talk about the problems, how to come up with a different game plan, how to goal set, I always had a beer around. I always had, a pill or something around. Today, it's completely opposite because, you learn, you get wiser, and just knowing that there are other avenues that you can take to cope with those days where, you might be behind the curve or you might not be hitting at all the angles that you want to hit at. Therapy is really, really big for me. I talk to a therapist now. I have a weekly meeting with my therapist, and I'm able to get a lot off and get the perspective from a professional who helps me see things in a little bit of a different way, because doing it the other way is kind of a road to nowhere fast, you know. And self-medicating, though it's cheap, it makes you feel good in the moment, you still got to wake up and see yourself in the mirror.
And you still got to deal with the challenges that come through with things. Yeah. So I'm wondering if you could share with the audience a little bit about the importance of having a support system while you're in the industry. Like, what does that look like? Does it come from your family? Does it come from people who are actually music wigs? Does it come from, reading or, just studying the craft? What do you feel is a good coping mechanism for folks who are in the industry and need to have that support and guidance?
Well, I would be remiss not to say that experience is probably the best teacher. And with anything, you have to realize that you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. There's no person in any profession and anything that they do that was 1,000 for 1,000 from the line. There's always going to be those bad days. It's how you deal with those bad days. So having that experience, it helps me deal with things in a different manner. Talking to people that are in the industry themselves, people who are important, people who have some validity, but people who aren't selfish in their journey. A big part of what was wrong before, this being Chicago, everyone who was in that industry, we're all trying to make it at the same time, and a lot of the resources that people have, they weren't willing to share. It's those people who see the benefit of building a strong foundation, building a strong network around them, who are willing to share their experiences, share their resources with you, that really help you out a lot. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, some of the older cats who were in hip-hop, some of the people who were coming up in hip-hop, some of the younger people who saw us coming up and saw our mistakes and, made a left where we would have made a right. All of those things help, but, also being able to turn to whoever your belief is in. I think that God definitely had a big play in everything in my journey. And he proves not to let me down. So I got to continue to hit those knees until they are almost purple, because I still wake up with questions. I still wake up unsure sometimes. I still wake up tired and unmotivated. But, it's all about, it's not about how fast you run the race. It's about the finish. It's about where you're at when you are done. And I know that he's not done with me, and I'm not done with this journey. So I continue to pray, to build my network, to talk to professionals, and definitely, like you said, studying. I do a lot more reading now, and I take a lot of things that I would have kind of shoved off, like, he don't know what he's talking about, to taking everybody for some merit for what they present.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's an important part of just growth and development, especially in an industry where it changes so much with the current times, is that you've got to have your own groundness and your own baseline. And I think that's the message we're trying to send out to folks that are watching and those who are part of this movement about mental health and the importance of it. And I got my jacket on today, as you can see, my 8-ball. It is just an homage to the music and the love I have for hip-hop. It's a style, it's a culture, it's just not 16 bars and a beat. And so with that, I'm wondering, when you've had such success in so many areas, what has been your, I guess, your guiding light to managing the stressors that come with this freako industry, that doesn't kind of, stand on its own? What would you say?
I would say that my foundation, my family, and anything that I've done, you always want to impress your mom. The biggest achievement, one of the biggest achievements I've had in my music career was when my grandmother, I was telling her, I was about to go over to Germany, and I was telling her about, the watch company and the watch deal, and she was like, well, yeah, it's about that time, because you've been putting this work in, and this is from a lady who is from Sedalia, Missouri, who hates rap. I'm talking about despite when I'm saying that I was hiding listening to the rap down, I'm literally in my room, radio turned all the way down, and I'm writing lyrics so I don't have to rewind my tape that I'm recording, because I'm scared she's gonna come in and just flip the radio over, because she hated it at that point. But it was her seeing all of the work that I put in, all the time I put in, all the sacrifices, and her recognizing that, yeah, your success is due. You have put this time in, and having that kind of foundation and having that kind of juxtaposition to success, I felt like I could do anything after that. So she set a fire in me that it just won't extinguish itself. It has only actually burnt into different avenues of the game. So where I'm not on stage as much anymore, I'm background. So I'm doing a lot more production. I'm doing a lot more writing. I'm helping out others with their careers. It's a lot of different things that I have done in my latter part of my journey. That all started because, she just set that fire up in me that I won't let go of. So it was the small things like that. For me, it's never been about fame. It's never been about, making millions and billions of dollars, though it would be nice.
Yes, that would be.
It has always been kind of a love, and it's therapeutic itself.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So that leads me to a couple things. I was reading a quote from a gentleman in, I think, New England or somewhere overseas, and he was speaking about the power of certain songs and how one hip hop song, let's say by artist Most Def, can change the mood and your perception. And I can't recall the song that he was speaking of, but it was so it was a right on time song. So I'm wondering, for those who are in the audience and those of us who are enjoying music, can you tell us about the power of music, whether it's hip hop, whether it's jazz, and what it does for the person who is in a certain state of mind and at despair? What do you think that this music culture does and can do to help with that that process that you might be feeling?
Well, hip hop is to underprivileged areas, to urban areas. It is our nightly news. It is the space where we speak about things that we want to celebrate. It's about the space where we want to talk about things that are unjust. It's the place where we speak about the barbershop talk. It's the place where we can be ourselves in our own voices. And I always think back when I was in college, I was on the debate team, and there was one subject that we had that dealt with hip hop, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna knock this out the park. And it was like, does hip hop music reflect more or does it affect more? And it was easy to me. It was like, we're going to reflect, because it is, hip hop is that mirror. And I think that that's very important for us, especially when we are of a people that are the voiceless. You know, it's the voice of the voiceless. It is the person who has the front row seat to, you know, everything that's happening, from police brutality to corruption in government to, you know, foreign wars for profit to the new shoes that are coming out. You know, it's all of those things. So I would say that it's very important for us, because it's a voice that is rarely heard, but rarely heard from outside of its own circle.
Very good. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's such a rich culture, and it's embedded in so many different entities. When I think about certain movies that just came out and won great awards and talked about, there was a segment in one of them about the culture of music and how it just kind of, you on top of you learn music through the artistry of someone else's music, and then it combinates into others. So from Africa all the way into our times and now, you know, the rhythm and the beat and things like that, it can all be traced back. Yeah. So stigma is really big, and we talk about this in our show. And in hip hop, I can imagine there are some stigmas that come around mental health, and mental health carries stigmas in hip hop a lot of times. How can we break down those stigmas and encourage more conversations about things that people have perceptions about regarding the music, and what it really does is kind of heal and transform somebody? How do we take a stigma out of that?
I think we stop leading with ego. And hip hop is very machismo. It's very much get over it. You can get through it. You hear you got it. That's not necessarily the case. You know, we have to be able to say it's okay to not be okay. We have to be able to be true to the people who are listening, true to ourselves, and, you know, quit the macho-ness. You know, we have to be a little bit more vulnerable. We have to lend our voices to another generation. We can't be so self-centered.
Yeah.
And we have to speak to our real life. You know, you have certain artists who all you hear is the great, 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 I'm great, I'm this, I'm great, I'm great. Talk to me about some of the stuff that's not that great.
Yeah.
And then we'll start to break down some of those walls and those barriers that don't get crossed a lot in hip-hop.
Awesome. Yeah, I think being authentic is a real word in itself because I don't know anybody in the industry who has just came through the rises of it. There's so many levels and so many levels in elements to it. And I think that we forget those times until you kind of reverse the track or not reverse the track, but actually rewind the tape and look at their beginnings. You know, some of our famous persons right here out of Chicago have been through really tough times just to get to a certain place, and having them to share about it in their music and you catch that is important and imperative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what advice or a final message would you feel would be imperative to those who are out there in the industry, want to maintain their mental health, but are still dealing with the struggles and the strifes that come on with just getting on?
Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your vision. Remember what you're doing it for. Remember your journey. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Be true to your music. Be true to the culture. And buy anything that says Lil Law. No, seriously. Just remember that we have a responsibility to a younger generation, and we have to be responsible about our voices. So just make sure that you're leading with integrity and leading with your heart.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's great. That's great. So with that being said, we're going to continue to put the emphasis on the importance of letting the music be a shoulder to us and understand that all the persons we admire through the music, through the artistry, through the creativity, also are human. And I think that we've given sometimes a big status of, oh, he's this rich and his bank account says that. But at the end of the day, they struggle probably 10 times more than we do with different things. And so to be able to get that message out to say that they have also been through the trials and tribulations to make it more normalized and humanize it is imperative. Yeah, it's imperative.
Absolutely, absolutely. It has evolved so much, and there's so much more that we can do. There's so many more things that we can speak to. Don't be afraid to talk about it.
Don't be afraid to talk about it. I like that. And that's why we're here, because we're talking about it, you guys. Please, please join us again. Soul Survivors of Chicago, breaking the silence, challenging the stigmas, having fresh conversations with Chicago's very own. And I'm grateful for my guest today, Khalid Rafiah Maxie, who's here. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time out to watch us. Be sure to follow us at soulsurvivorsofchicago.com and on social medias, all platforms. And with that, we'll be well.
Come up.
Bye.